Hello, everyone, and welcome to this
Hey,
week's
look who's
podcast
here.
broadcast of This Week in Science.
Kiki,
Yeah,
look
we've
who's
got some
here.
visitors.
Yeah, we
Visitors
got
have
people.
joined us. Hey, hi, people. How's it going? Welcome to our window into the world with you to talk about science tonight. We are here, as we are most Wednesday evenings, to discuss the stories that we're bringing to the show. And this is the pre-show part where I tell you that if you want the edited stuff, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast, because that's what our wonderful Rachel, our editor, does for us, is cleans it up so that our show is palatable to the ears. So head over to wherever you get podcasts if that's what you. Oh, where'd
Speaking of
Justin go?
palatableness to the ears, we need to do
Yes.
an audience sound check because Kiki, you sound quiet to
Yes.
me, and
And
I'm
my
at a little over 50% on my end's volume, what I should be hearing. So it might be you might need to do some signal boosting if you have
I don't
that.
know. What does everyone think? I boosted myself a little just now. I
Okay, that's better.
should be boosted into the yellow. Not into the red, into the yellow. Here we go. How does
You
that
can do a
sound? Is that
little
better?
red once in a while. It's fine. A little bit of red is. It's
Yeah,
not the.
how's Justin?
It,
Everyone, you like Justin's
oh,
sound? Now I'm louder than you are. We'll
well,
get
that's
you up
good because
there, Justin.
this
What
is
do
the
you think?
beginning of the show before I've gotten really into talking loud. By the end of the
What do
show, I'm
we
like,
think right now?
oh, now I'm
How's
talking like this, and then it'll be like that. So
now
I get louder as the show goes on.
I know. Let's see. I'm sounding a bit hot. Well, thank you. No, I don't want to sound hot. I want to sound even
What?
keeled. Here we go.
I
Here
want
we
to
are,
sound
everyone.
modestly attractive, just modestly so. I
To
don't want
my
to
ears,
be.
we both sound great, Aaron. Thank you very much. Eric Knapp says maybe I'm a little bit loud. Fix it in post. I've turned myself down a little bit. I can also come away from my mic a little bit now that I'm a little louder. So that's good.
Yeah, I can always get right up into the mic and talk in these kinds of tones and see if that.
No. No.
No? Okay.
Too hot to handle. Thank you for joining us, everyone, for another one of these wonderful episodes. Are we ready to go? Share with friends, everyone. It's time. Yeah, let's have science. Stop. Okay.
Somebody should be doing. Somebody should be doing science these days.
We should go now, everyone. Yeah. Let's do this. Starting the show in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 1028, recorded on Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. Science Unplugged. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on the show, we will fill your head with immunity, consciousness, and Adriana. But first,
disclaimer. Science is not a brand. It's a process of discovery, a catalog of knowledge, a way of understanding the world without human bias. But a brand, it is not. That's why the U.S. Health and Human Services Department, a historically science-based agency that funds health and welfare programs, conducts medical research, oversees the food and drug safety via the Food and Drug Administration, manages health insurance programs like Medicare, Medicaid, responds to public health emergencies by usually taking advice from National Institutes of Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, ceases to be a science-based agency when it stops using science as a process of discovery, stops relying on the catalog of knowledge that science has built, and only understands the world through the lens of human bias. Since becoming the head of the U.S. Health and Human Services Department, Robert F.K. Jr. has never been briefed by the CDC or a CDC expert on anything. Anything. Despite altering research priorities, shutting down pandemic preparation programs, replacing positions held by experts with people who are not. Soon, the CDC itself will have a new handpicked leader, and the top science-driven public health organization in the United States will be pointless. It won't matter what the CDC says, what the NIH researches, what the FDA sanctions or approves. Because despite the long histories of these agencies using science to make decisions, the credibility of their science-based brand is gone. Same is happening at the Department of Energy. Without science, these are meaningless organizations, putting out unvalidated, untrustworthy, in some cases dangerous nonsense. Science is not a brand, but it is what keeps the brand of health agencies credible. And increasingly, the only place you can find credible agency is right here on This Week in Science, coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki.
And a good science to you too, Justin. Oh, and there's no Blair tonight, unfortunately. She is adventuring. Fun is being had in the world. I want you all to know this. Enjoyment is being procured. It happens. It actually happens. Anyway, we are so glad that you have joined us for another episode of This Week in Science. We are back again to talk about science like we do every week. I'm so happy to be here. I've got lots of stories about treating pain with Adriana, shocking the immune system, splendid healing, and plants that glow. What did you bring, Justin?
I already forgot what my stories are. Is that bad?
You forgot something. I forgot what they are. I don't know.
Okay, so I have brought a tool that can be used in case
a tool that'll be used in case you are censored by a slow internet. Ah, of course. At the beginning of the show,
No,
this
is it
is
happening?
Yes, you broke up for a moment there.
Okay, so I've got a method of determining whether or not Justin is still there, even if he's in comatose state. I've got, it's not you, it's us. The truth about who in therapy. A couple of stories, it turns out, where I'm going to beat up on the study a little bit. One is a GLP-1. This is the new weight loss drug, blockbuster drug fad that's going on. There's a bazillion papers. One came across my desk, and I got assigned to look at it, and I did. And it's not good what they're putting out right now in terms of the quality of the science. And then the last story I brought tonight is a study that just spent too much time on the toilet.
Oh no. All of this sounds I don't know, a little crappy. No, it's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful science. You know, you really, really want to wipe home about it. Anyway, I am going to keep going with the show right now because Blair's not here, so I can't ask what's in the animal corner. But for all of you, we're going to jump into the science. But before we do, I want to remind you that you can subscribe to This Week in Science, all places that podcasts are found. maybe not all of them, but a lot of the places that podcasts are found. Look for
Name
This
one
Week
we can't
in
be found.
Science.
I can't even think of
I
it. They're
don't
not the
know.
good
I
ones.
haven't
It's
looked
none
for
of the
those.
good
I know.
ones are we not found on. Yeah. If you can't
Well,
find
we
us on the platform that has podcasts, you're on the wrong platform because you're missing all of the podcasts that are on a different
yes,
platform.
all of the other places. But you can look for This Week in Science wherever you find podcasts and get your friends to subscribe because they should be subscribed as well. We are here on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook streaming live pretty much every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time. You can subscribe to those channels as well. And if you want to see our show notes or check out our Patreon or our Zazzle store, head over to twist.org where you can find all of the information related to this show.
You can also sign up for Blair's newsletter there.
Yeah, somebody's newsletter. It really is. But now it's time for the science. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's dive right in. So you jumped in the disclaimer into the issues of the EPA, the DOE, the CDC, and that is a perfect platform for me to discuss our top stories related to what happened in science policy within the last week. Well, the CDC has been gutted, for lack of a better word. The director of the CDC was fired last week as she did not want to resign. And she pushed back against certain restrictions and regulations related to the COVID-19 vaccines. And as a result, she was fired. There were several director level or high level, long term CDC employees, career scientists, people who are so experienced and experts in the areas that they work in immunity and public health, and they quit in protest. So now the CDC has 9 fewer top level scientists to actually do great work.
And I get
we'll
there's
see.
probably moral reasons and other reasons for them to quit, but that's not a great protest. We need somebody behind the scenes who can at least leak information that might be useful for the public to know. Like, why quit in protest? I've never fully understood
it is
that.
it's an insufferable working environment when you're
No,
when your
that's
expertise.
when you have to double down and be a trooper and stick it out. Come on.
Well, this is where we are, and in this moment, we find ourselves with RFK Jr., who has he's put together his own vaccine assessment board full of people who are vaccine skeptics and people who are not necessarily experts in the immune system or vaccine science. So
can we pause it right there? When you say not necessarily expert, do you mean not an expert?
They are experts in some things.
I mean, like the wiggle words. I think we should need to start throwing them out because sometimes the wiggle word is important.
So I don't want to say everyone because it's a 17-person vaccine advisory committee, and this has always been.
We should all be experts on the immune system, right? Like, isn't that what they should all be? So if half of them then they're not an expert panel.
They are no longer an expert panel. So the news this week is that the West Coast states are going to band together to create their own independent expert panel to offer public health and vaccine safety information for the Western states.
So that's great news because I didn't hear about that, and I was thinking like, my goodness, we're going to really have to have like some university research centers or something step up and be doing this is what the CDC has put out. Our point of view is that so that we have some source of information from the scientific community that we can keep reliably sourced information that we can we can follow. Because
and that
I mean,
is the concern as people leave the CDC who and long-term, administration to admit cross administration expertise is lost. Where are we going to find the knowledgeable expertise and advice and information that we need? And it looks as though, according to this announcement, governors of California, Oregon, and Washington announced today they're going to try to provide unified recommendations, quote, to ensure residents remain protected by science, not politics. Of course, this is a political act in itself because it's very hard at this point to separate science and politics in the sphere of public health. And so, however, they're going to be bringing together individuals to actually use scientific evidence as opposed to bias in their advising. Now,
this
further,
vibe's a little bit like Science Island. Like,
it's a
okay, we're going to have to create a little space over here where the scientists are free from all this political nonsense and can just do their work.
Right. And so the question is now, will states begin to draft and craft their own public health orders? So the Western states banding together to do this, they can bring all their resources to bear in the name of public health, but maybe there are going to be individual states that make these decisions. For instance, Florida has just announced that they are going to end vaccine requirements for school students. The state is moving to end all non-statutory mandates in the state, and they are going to be not requiring any children to be vaccinated before entering kindergarten. Because it should be, as they say, personal choice.
I keep
regardless
saying feel, but
of public health.
Right. Well, the only, I guess it's not even a feel, it's a think. It's the only logical reason I can come up with. The only scenario that jumps into my head is that the lawmakers of Florida who are pushing for this all have wealthy elder relatives that they're looking for a way to get rid of. So
this is
the only thing that makes
so that's speculation.
Any sense.
But
because they're going to want to see the grandkids, and if they don't vaccinate the grandkids, then they're going to have to, it's like the only way that it makes sense why they would be doing this.
Florida does have among the lowest of the vaccine exemption rates at about 5% of the school population. And the question, though, is with removal of mandatory vaccination for school, how will that number change? Because doctors will still advise to vaccinate, but if fewer and fewer people have to provide a vaccination record to actually enroll their children in school, the question is what will happen moving forward there. Also, what will this do? Is this going to be case studies for the future? But anyway, this is the first step there, removing it for the states' rights and ability to make their own choices in this regard. We'll see.
And
what happens.
The thing is, there's a very low risk to children. This was also something that we discovered during the big pandemic in Sweden. That was at one point trying to do herd immunity. Is that the school kids weren't really that affected. So when they were studying how the school kids are handling things, it was like it's fine. They're the schools that are masking or getting the vaccines versus not, it wasn't a huge difference. The difference is in the surrounding population as those things can spread, because not everybody's going to have that same level of immunity.
Right.
Age-based.
But as this is happening, we are watching RFK Jr. getting rid of people at the CDC, changing the mandate of the CDC. He's writing that the organization should be focusing more on infectious diseases and chronic diseases should be moved away from the CDC. That in itself is not necessarily a terrible decision to make.
To where?
For No, a decision
To
to
where?
make for separation of tasks and focuses. But the issue is
moving
that
those other things to where?
is right to where? Right, where are they going to go? Where in
Nowhere.
the Health and Human Services are they going to go? Are they going? I don't know that.
There's not a
But the RFK Jr. has been called to resign. People are saying he should be pushed out. That the decisions he has been making, specifically with regard to vaccines. The COVID we reported last week, the COVID-19 vaccine had been shifted to only be available for people over 65 years of age and those who have a need because of their immune system, previously understood diseases or conditions that might lead them to need the protection of the vaccine. But kids would not get that vaccine anymore by the new ruling of the HHS. Additionally, we can't. It's harder and harder to find. So what's happening right now at the CDC, Health and Human Services, researchers across the board, public health officials across the board are saying that this is reckless, and it is serving a political agenda as opposed to protecting the public.
It's also all I don't know if you can call it perjury. I don't know what the level of this is. But
there are lies. Reporters have called out RFK Jr. on his lies. Yeah.
But I mean, if you go before a confirmation committee and they ask you how you will act when you get into the role, and
I'm not going to get rid of any vaccines. I will support vaccines.
And you do the opposite of what you tell them. How is that not like an instant string pull to get somebody out of there?
Yep.
You know,
it's a great question.
That's part I don't understand. Like confirmation, you just let's make up whatever they want to hear. Then once I have the job, it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't make sense.
In other news beyond our public health system being completely reworked, gutted is a very apropos word, in the area of the environment, energy, and climate change, in June, the Department of Energy submitted a report that is it's their climate change report. And this climate change report, according to a whole bunch of scientists who came together during the 1 month, August, where there were public comments, a period of public comment for this report. They have now released a 400-page long report, fully referenced and documenting in the methodology of peer review every single issue they found wrong, every error, every misattribution, every lack of attribution within the DOE report. First among this is that they brought together more than 85 experts to contribute to this climate experts review of the DOE Climate Working Group report, which was put together by something like a very small, hand-picked group of climate skeptics and energy professionals. So for years and years, we've reported on various individuals who we know have been fighting against some of the learnings and understandings from the years of evidence coming from climate change research. They have been working messaging the merchants of doubt. They are behind writing this so-called government report, which should have been accurate and based on all of the available evidence. However, they used cherry-picked evidence. They misrepresented well understood ideas behind climate forcing factors versus versus variation and small blips in the climate record. So this working group report has been torn apart. Andrew Dressler from Texas A&M University organized this effort, and they have gone point by point, like I said, in the form of peer review and torn it apart. They also included a summary for policymakers, and they looked at things like how carbon dioxide in the working group's government report was represented as good for agriculture. While there is research that suggests the greening effect of carbon dioxide, very often the conclusions from this working group did not take into account or didn't include the nuances of things like multiple factors occurring at the same time. Yes, carbon dioxide is going up, but there's also going to be changes in soil pH, changes in temperature of the air. So warmer environments are more stressful to plants. And when you have all these factors coming together, you have actually you have less to no change in the amount of plant biomass that can grow.
Well,
they left that out.
so there's that, but then there's also that's also missing climate, which is going to cause droughts, fires, inordinate amounts of rain, which can also kill crops. If you get too much rain, you can actually flood out a field to the point where you're not going to be getting your harvest.
Mm-hmm.
That like the level of just looking at carbon is the net positive, and then ignoring all of the other things is ridiculous.
I mean, it is a long report that was published, but the climate experts' rebuttal and peer review of that report is 4 times as long. Instead of 100 pages, it's 400 pages. And they Dressler compared this government report to a badly written blog post that demanded or that needed a response. He said, if something is coming out of the federal government that is conceivably going to be used to make federal policy, it should be accurate. And hopefully they will incorporate some of these comments into the final report, and that this will be added to the final report. Because the use of cherry-picked data to suggest that to change EPA standards is what they're after. There are efforts underway to undermine the regulation for vehicles, power plants, oil and gas industry, and also that are going to impact public health.
Yeah, but here's why they're even bothering with the clown show of doing a fake science report, because aren't they already just doing the deregulation without the documentation? Like, they're doing this documentation after the fact on a lot of this anyway.
So that is the interesting question. There's the degree to which they are trying to use regular channels to lead to their policies and deregulation. But it is not science. They are, and they say that they are going to be using what the Trump administration has been asking for, which is gold standard science. But if in fact that's what they're trying to do, that is not represented in the working group's report that was submitted.
Oh, you just don't know who's supplying the gold.
Right. Yeah. So, the DOE report, they say it was reviewed internally by a group of DOE scientific researchers and policy experts from the Office of Science and National Labs, and that the Trump administration is committed to engaging in a more thoughtful and science-based conversation about climate change and energy, according to an NPR article, which, by the way, NPR and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting have been defunded by the current organization and are trying to find new ways to continue the excellent reporting that they do for all Americans.
But in this age of what we're seeing, when you say, well, the experts in the Department of Energy have studied this and looked at it, doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
If you know
exactly,
that there's
because
not science,
it was not a transparent process. They did not list the people who were reviewing. They didn't list the process to how they came to this report. There's all sorts of stuff that has been done related to this report without transparency, and anything that is being done for the public, right, in the name of the public, should have full transparency, and that is not the process, which also is very concerning.
Well, the lobbyists don't want their names associated with the document that they're using for their lobbying that they handed to the government to spit back out as though it was the government's. They accidentally sign things sometimes, or have letterheads that show that they all came from the same group, the same. But gosh, can you blame them? This document.
Can we blame them? So if you are interested, these documents are fully available. The Climate Experts Review of the DOE Climate Working Group report is available online to peruse and to see what has been commented on by each of the 85 individuals. They comment on every single aspect of the report in much more detail than was included in the original report.
So this is going to have to happen for every critique, and because if
this is not paid work. However, this is people working. They had a month to get this massive report in during the period for public commentary. This is done, volunteer time. They are experts in their field. And yes, of course, this is potentially part of, the work that they do as researchers to respond to this, but it takes away from other more important work to actually change what we're dealing with in the future.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does at all. I think this is some of the most important work that they maybe have done in a while.
Right. No, but why do they have to do it now? Like, this is if this report were accurate and done well, they would not have to be doing this and spending their time doing it. The working group report,
elections have consequences.
The government group that they pulled together, they completely disregarded the IPCC reports. They completely disregarded every expert report that is. It's like they didn't exist, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to rewrite what we want." That's not science. So yeah, right now this is one of the most important things that these researchers could do. But it's a crying shame that they have to be spending their time doing this instead of actual research at this point in time.
Well, look, science has required defending for as long as there's been science.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, just discovering that the sun was the center of our solar system and not the Earth got people sentenced to death, right? Like, science has always needed defenders and to push back against people who just didn't want it to be true. So yeah, I think it's more important than the research that they have done or would be working on right now. I mean, I think it's more important than the research they would be working on right now to set aside that,
to set the record, right?
But science itself.
But they shouldn't have to be doing this at all. This should not be happening, but it is. So that's what this is where they are. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, it also one of the comments that people made related to this is it was as if the working group and I'm responding to a comment in the chat from Kevin Reardon that we're going back to America being the center of the universe. Yes, but not just the center of the universe, just disconnected from the rest of the universe, in that the the recommendations that were made in the working group's report from the DOE were not taking into account the impact, or maybe they are, and that's why they're doing it, but it's not taking into account the impact on global and foreign policies and regulations that will occur as a result of changes that happen as a result if this report is accepted in full.
Yeah, so I disagree with that, because I don't think that any of what our current government is doing is going to be based on any report. Anyway, I don't think I don't think it's like they're going to be like, hey, did you read that? Or no, I don't think any of it has to do with reading. But I think to Kevin Rudin's point, what I got out of that is, what if you suddenly had new leadership at the National Planetarium or whatever, and they're saying, actually, turns out Earth is the center of the universe after all, after further researchers that we have working on it have decided it. That would make as much sense as what's happening at the Health and Human Services and happening at the Department of Energy if you just got the announcement tomorrow that the Earth is the center of the universe, that everything is revolving around the Earth. What they're putting out makes that much sense. Like, I don't think so as many people will be shocked by this fake science that they're putting out. But that's
gold standard
really
science.
Who's gold? Who's gold? That'll be the standard.
Yeah.
Who's gold? Who's supplying the gold? That's what you need to know from the current.
Yeah, but these are the merchants of doubt, and they are running the show right now. They don't even have to be the merchants of doubt anymore. They are making new rules, as you said. But anyway, no, we're not saying that out loud.
And actually, after consulting several maps and measuring several screens, have discovered that everything's flat.
Nope. Not true. Yeah. But anyway, that's what's happening this week in science in the United States. So much great stuff going on here. We are amazing. Let's talk about some optimistic stuff. What did you find this week, Justin? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, okay. So close friends and total strangers on the internet who listen to the show probably heard me say I have a standing do not unplug order.
Right.
If I go comatose, if I'm sitting there in a hospital bed, not moving around, not doing anything, keep me plugged in, because if there's a chance that the mind is still operating on any level, I'm fine. I didn't really need any of you. It was nice interacting with the humans. At the end of the day, I've got more productive things to do, just thinking. But how do you know that there's a flickering going on in there? How do you know that there's some consciousness taking place? Typically, the way that they do that in the beginning is just by observation. It's observation with like, can you move? How are you doing today? And looking to see if there's any kind of a response. You can get further in, you can do brain scans and that sort of thing, but that's not really available to everybody, especially right off becoming comatose. They don't automatically put you in an MRI machine or do an EEG. So they just do this observation thing. Sometimes with the headphones, they'll put headphones on and play sounds and see if they can get a command response sort of thing going on, like wiggle your finger, blink your eye, something of this nature. So this is folks at Stony Brook University. They created See Me, which is a computer-based visual system that can go down to around 0.2 millimeters of resolution and track movements in the face.
So micro expressions, kind of.
They're micro expressions.
Little, yeah, interesting.
And so when I first heard this, I thought, okay, well, is this gonna like over generate? responses? Are there little micro movements that, maybe people miss when they're seeing it, that aren't really consciousness related, may not be related to a response to the question, that sort of thing. But what I also then realize is that if you have an unblinking eye staring at the patient, you're going to be more likely to catch something. You're more likely to catch a response movement. If you're in there and you're doing the thing, you look away or you blink, you might miss it. For somebody who's trying to communicate, but can only make the slightest of movements. So they had a couple of ways of doing this with some blind testers who would look at videos after the fact and try to determine whether or not there was a conscious reaction to questions that were being put through audio. But the results indicate an earlier and broader detection of consciousness with CME. Eye opening was detected on average around 9.1 days after injury by CME, whereas it took 13.2 days on average by clinical examination. So it's a good 4 days advance notice. And then this is also partly a thing that happens when people who will recover from a comatose state. A coma we kind of think of as something, somebody goes into a coma and they're there for like years and years and years and years, because that's the Hollywood tale version of it. But a lot of brain injuries, people will go into this sort of comatose state and then they will recover. They'll come out of the coma within weeks. For whatever reason, needs to be some rewiring going on. Anyway, so then it says that the identified eye opening in 30 out of 36 patients, compared to only 25 out of 36 by clinical examinations. So that's a good 14% ish better. And again, I think that's the unblinking eye, right? That's
yeah.
Can do is system versus human attention spans and consciousness. Even in a clinical exam, you might not be seeing absolutely everything. The one that was actually, I think, maybe the most kind of convincing that this thing is becoming a good detective, is that patients that had the endotracheal tube, something that obscures the mouth, so you can't see mouth movements. And there's a lot of, eye and mouth are going to be your big movie parts in the face if you're not familiar with faces.
If you're not familiar with the faces, yes.
If you're not familiar with faces. So having this tube sort of concealing and obscuring much of the mouth, CME still detected mouth movements 94% of the time. So it was that dialed in that it could actually just sort of ignore the obscuring parts and still track the motion. So overall, it showed reproducible mouth responses 8.3 days earlier on average than the clinical assessments, the observations alone. They had some additional observations that were lower: 37% of the tongue movements, 47% for smile. It was 81% for eyes. So actually, eyes were the windows into the consciousness in this one. That was the most sensitive.
But the eyes are usually closed in these situations, and it's just the muscles. There's so many muscles around the eyes, like little teeny tiny, the expression muscles. Yeah.
This sort of thing is you're getting an audio feed.
Mm-hmm.
You can still hear it on some level. Now, these aren't necessarily conscious, voluntary reactions that they're getting. Also, it's not like blink. It's not necessarily like blink your eye, but here is some music playing, and are the eyes becoming active while the music is playing? So it can be much more subtle than a real command and response, even
though they did the command and response. Yeah.
They did both, right?
They
So
did both. Yeah.
yeah. Or at least the responses that they were getting weren't necessarily subject specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is sort
I
of
think,
they're still
yeah. I just think
But
it's so
anyway,
exciting. But this is one of the big questions, right? Of, how do we determine those those right in between vegetative state and conscious? How do we determine who's there, who's not? What are we missing, or what have we been missing? I don't know. I think this is also
and
really
I think the
interesting.
point is
Yeah. What's the point?
you can't tell, and so keep me plugged in. Because again, I didn't need any of you. I'm happy where I am.
Unless, of course, see me says, I don't see you.
That's just phase one. Then you got to go to the
Mhm.
EEG and the fMRI, and then even then, if there's basic biological functions still being controlled by the brain, if that's what I am, I'm okay with that. I like being that.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
as
do
good as
love
most life forms.
yeah, I do love the part of it also that's the correlations also lead to like different outcomes, that they're able to see different things and be able to determine the states of different people, and um, this idea that they're able to actually see this well before. I mean, that can give people and doctor, like loved ones, treatments, like all the things, decisions can be made faster that might actually lead to better outcomes, right?
Yeah, you maybe also it can, if we track this, we can also then see maybe in parallel with different therapies to see which ones are actually being effective for early therapy. You may be able to track what is getting response versus what isn't at a higher degree of fidelity, and then whether or not this that or the other early therapy
Is working.
is working.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's to each one of these things that's like I think should be everybody's choice, but you got to make a choice now. You can't wait till you're there.
Get into it now.
But it's also the thing, and so for some people, they may be like, "This is if I get to this point alone, this is my choice to go no further," and that should be respected. But if it's me, it will be murder. I'm never ready to leave.
All right.
I just need to make that absolutely clear. I'm fine.
I've got it.
I'm not locked in an inner hellscape. No, trust me. Inside, it's all rainbows and sunshine. It's beautiful.
Oh my goodness. I like rainbows and sunshine, but what about if people are in pain, not while they are unconscious, but what about chronic pain? What about issues related to what normally is treated with opioids? We've had a huge opioid epidemic here in the United States that has really impacted multiple segments of the American population. And we are on the hunt for non-opioid painkillers. We want analgesics, painkiller, that don't lead to addiction, right? So one of the things people have been trying to see is whether or not cannabis works, whether or not different form THC or CBT, whether these, is it CBT? Yeah, whether or not these components of the cannabinoid, all these cannabinoid molecules, whether or not they work as painkillers. And they do to a degree, but it has been seen that people tend to stop taking them, especially if people have chronic pain. They tend to discontinue the use of these cannabinoids after a few months. And so the pain potentially continues. We don't have a good replacement for opiates at this point in time. Out of Kyoto University this week, researchers have published a paper in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, discovery and development of an oral analgesic targeting the alpha-2b adrenoceptor. So the alpha-2 adrenergic receptor is involved in the pain response. Opioids do impact the alpha-2A pathway. Also, if we've come up with lots of analgesics that impact the alpha-2A adrenoreceptor pathway, and they often lead to issues in that affect cardiac health, that impact other parts of your ability to stay hemodynamically stable. Basically, it's like, oh, the body goes, nope, can't do that anymore. I don't feel pain, but I'm not going to pump the blood anymore, or I'm not going to have, I'm going to just vasodilate all over the place. And so when these pain relievers are given, they are given usually not orally, it is injectable, and it is within a hospital situation because they need to be able to monitor blood pressure and heart rate to be able to see what's actually going on. Here, these researchers have been trying to find something that does something similar, that can make, that stops the pain, but doesn't lead to the cardiac impacts or the venous impacts. And so they are reporting on Z1,3-ethyl-5-fluorobenzodithiazole 2,3-H yielding propan-2,1. Otherwise known as adrenergic inducer of analgesia, or Adriana. They are reporting on their new oral treatment for pain called Adriana. Adriana impacts the alpha-2 adrenergic system. It antagonizes the alpha-2b receptors. And so by antagonizing this subtype, these 2Bs, or not 2Bs, by turning them off and basically going, you're not going to send your signal anymore, by not allowing stuff to connect with them anymore, this Adriana leads to, it causes a loop that leads to an increase in the alpha-2A receptor activity. Because it's not actually being, the receptor isn't actually being stimulated, it's different than the other situation that has led to cardiac problems. And so they've done mouse tests, monkey tests, and it has been really successful that they've orally administered Adriana to mice and non-human primates, no cardiovascular effects. And they also showed that when they got rid of the alpha-2b receptor and gave them Adriana, that nothing happened, that the pain was still felt, pain was not treated, there were no analgesic effects. This could lead to, and there were no addictive effects either. So this could lead to an oral analgesic,
so that's the one
better than opioids, that gets rid of, your pain without addiction.
So the no addiction thing. Because so most of the story so far has sounded like we've created a version of opioids that will never kill our clients. It doesn't. Not a lot of it's made it sound like they didn't focus on the addiction thing very much. Like, how is it? Well, they got very specific about how it won't kill their junkies. I mean, their clients. Sorry, but they kind of skipped over the and monorail.
It doesn't
monorail. It's not addictive.
It promotes noradrenaline release, and it promotes the analgesic effects, but it doesn't lead to the seeking behaviors that opioids lead to. So in the case of, say, aspirin or an NSAID that you might take for aches and pains, you don't seek those. You don't have to, like, they help get rid of your pain, but it's not something that you physically need otherwise. Like, you do not need to continue taking it. If you discontinue taking it, your pain comes
Right.
back, but you don't suffer cardiovascular impacts. You don't suffer
Yeah, I've never been like,
things that
oh
could
my
kill
gosh, I
you.
got to take another ibuprofen. Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yeah.
I gotta get my ibuprofen fixed. No, that's true. That's true. But I thought that had more to do with the strength of ibuprofen.
No,
But if it doesn't, if it only has that,
this is it.
if it only
Yeah.
has the pain relief and doesn't have the, I guess, is it dopamine effects?
No, so opioid
What is
effects.
the, yeah,
The opiates. Yeah.
opioid effect. Okay.
Yeah.
If it doesn't,
it
if
gets
it's
rid of
not,
the pain. It's not going to lead
in the
to,
reward system,
it won't hit the reward system, right? Exactly. It won't be leading to, that reward seeking behavior. It would not be leading to actual physical impacts that could lead to, like opiates have issues when you stop taking them that are very dangerous.
yes.
So this has passed phase 2 clinical trials. They are on their way to human trials. And so perhaps there will be a non-addictive pain reliever that will challenge the opiates that we currently use and
I'm
be
buying,
much better
I'm
for people.
right now creating a napkin and creating my own stock that I'm buying of this. I don't even know. I'll fill in the name later. Like whatever this is.
Adriana,
be,
it's from Kyoto University. And yeah,
if it is what it says it is.
And that is the question. We don't, it's phase 2 clinical trials.
Sure. If a major, because it'd have to be major side effect, doesn't completely derail it. Like if nobody dies in the human trials, basically is going to be the threshold. I mean, in a way related specifically and directly to the drug. That's going to be what has been sought for. So that's going to be a wonder drug. Like it's going to be the game changer that everybody's been looking for forever. It might be the biggest story with all the other stories that we do. Biggest story of the year here in September.
So we've got phase 2 trials that are I guess they're underway now, in patients with postoperative pain following lung cancer surgery. And they're going to be collaborating. Kyoto University is collaborating with BTB Therapeutics, which is a Kyoto University or originated venture company. So of course, this is being the technology transfer out of the university is going on. But it is an international collaboration because the opiate crisis is not just the United States. Opiates are highly regulated in Japan and in countries around the world. So this is a priority for
Denmark. You
many.
can't buy more than 10 ibuprofen at a time. Like they don't even, they really knocked every over-the-counter thing away. But I'm highly skeptical.
Well, it's early still, so fingers crossed.
Only because of how amazing it would be, right? Like
right,
it's not based on having read any. There's no disagreement with anything that they have done, study-wise or research-wise, or the basis of this now. But just 100% skeptical. Just on the scale of how important this is, right? Which is fine. Like I'm more than happy to be unskepticalified. How do you call it?
Right.
Convinced.
Please.
More than happy to be convinced. But wow, that would be amazing.
It would be amazing. Want to tell me one more story?
Okay, real quickly. I'm going to do this
real
quick, fast.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's us.
What?
Turns out spouses tend to show consistent similarities across 9 psychiatric disorders, and that these persist over generations. So similars attract.
Wait, similars attract? Wait.
Yeah. This is a sample using a 90 years and a sample of over 14 million. 500,000 pairs in Denmark was sort of the control group that they had, but they had another 707,000 in Sweden, and then 14.8 million with 6 million matched controls. Lots of people. And this was the bulk of the study was then assessed on Taiwanese couples starting in 1995 or 1996 when they were getting diagnosis of personality disorders and psychiatric disorders as part of their routine healthcare. And there had been, I guess, small scale, I guess, marriage registry type studies or something that had reported spousal similarities in several disorders. And this one finds that, yeah, actually it works in multiple countries. And then there's also
Nordic countries. So they're all related anyway.
Right. And so then they took this, and exactly why this study took place in Taiwan.
Okay.
And to see, they were basically looking to track and see if it still worked. And there were some slight differences, but for the most part, family, of course, risk increases when both parents share a diagnosis for schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, substance use disorder. And a lot of these things too, then, we've had this kind of back and forth about personality disorders, about how much of it is genetic and how much of it is your environment. But then if both of your parents have this, you're both more genetically likely to share traits, but you're also going to be brought up by these folks who are sharing this, whatever this personality trait. So, and this is...
There's so much here.
So when next time, anyway, I just sort of...
you've got the genetic aspect, but behavioral, and you like hanging out with people who understand you, right? And if somebody else has issues, they very likely are going to be compassionate and understanding of, whatever your issues are.
And it's just because it seems like it happens over generations, so that they're at a non-statistical rate of chance more likely to select somebody with a similar psychiatric disorder. So next time you're about to tell your spouse that they've got this, and this issue, chances are you're projecting as well as right. You're right, and you're projecting. It's probably both.
Oh, good gracious.
I love it. Probably selected somebody who's got your same deal.
I do not.
Except for one really big exception. You know what wasn't?
At all.
OCD. What? Apparently, people with OCD don't select other people with OCD. They tended not to want to be.
But other disorders are
You're organizing different. Like anybody else doesn't organize. They're fine. I'll do all the organizing. You organize differently than I do. No, this will never work. I can see how that would be a problem immediately. All right, as we go into the break, I got to go check the air in my tires real quick, and I'll be right back.
And this is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for joining us for this Wednesday night episode. We hope that you are enjoying the show. I hope you're enjoying the show, and that if you are, that you will share us with your friends, family, coworkers. Who needs more science in their lives? Who would love to hang out and talk with us and be part of these discussions? Think about that. and share TWIS. Also, head over to twis.org. That's where you can send the people that you are recommending TWIS to find out more about us, the show, past episodes, show notes, links to things like our Zazzle store, where you can find merchandise, all those wonderful, wonderful products that have been designed by Blair, all the artwork that she's done through the years to make your homes happy and full of twists and Blair's Animal Corner animals. Also, at twis.org is our Patreon link. Patreon is where we coordinate our listener support. So if you click on that Patreon link and join as a Patreon supporter, you'll be able to choose your level of support, whatever works for you on an annual or monthly basis, to be able to help us keep bringing you twists week after week as much as we can. We really can't do this without you. I mean, honestly, I love seeing all of you in the chat room when we're live, and I love imagining and thinking about you out there watching later or listening on your computer or your smartphone. I love thinking about that and trying to think who you are. Who are you? Thank you. So glad you spend your time with us. All right, everybody. We're going to come on back, but there's no Animal Corner right now. We have to come back with Justin's corner, but he can't yet because he is checking his tires still. And I see there's a pirate pillow. There's a porthole, which you may have noticed in the background of the program to date. And Rachel, please edit all this stuff out right now. There's the porthole in the background, which is actually a live porthole to the outdoors. That is real outdoors behind Justin. Any cars moving past, it's not artificially produced. It's not a synthetic video. This is real life right now. We're coming on back with more science.
Aquarium of the world out there.
Love the aquarium of the world. Out the porthole. Justin,
So,
do you have stories for us?
Yes.
Yes.
So every once in a while, this is that new segment, Justin Trashes a Study.
Thank you. Yes,
every
please.
Once in a while, I get one across the desk. So I'm going to give the disclaimer that I put at the end of this one. It's just a quick general disclaimer that should accompany all GLP-1 receptor antagonists. Any study on these, because they could be injecting bias into presenting the benefits of off-label implications for taking these drugs. There's a lot of publication pressure, and I think there's even if the research isn't industry funded, doing a positive study on the blockbuster drug, there's a bazillion names for these right now, for weight loss. Even if you're not directly funded, doing a positive study is a signal that you're somebody who could do who could take funding, who could do another positive, follow up with another positive review, right? So I'm going through this study, and there's something that catches my eye early on when they're presenting how the study is formulated. And it says that p-values were two-sided, with a 0.5 or above would be considered statistically insignificant. So anything had to be under a p-value of 0.05 for it to be considered relevant, right? This was their threshold in their study. And they had a good cohort. They had over 80,000 matched adults. Some had type 2 diabetes. Some had other comorbidities. And the overall idea of this was whether or not there would be long-term cancer risks. Not risks from the GLP-1 RAs. This is the association with obesity and cancer. There's 13 types of cancer that have been strongly associated with cancer diagnoses. Obesity is also, just as far as metabolic diseases, it's the number one killer of humans. It's the number one cause of death associated with all sorts of other diseases. Obesity is that one linchpin that associates most of these, and 13 types of cancer are strongly account for, what is it, approximately 40% of all cancer diagnoses each year in the US have obesity as a comorbidity. Okay. So the idea is, hey, if people on these diabetic drugs who are using them to lose weight, do they have a lower risk of cancer? And they did actually 14 cancers. They also threw in lung cancer to this. Of the 14 cancers, only ovarian cancer showed a significant positive correlation to the GLP-1RA users. And it had a really low hazard ratio of 0.53, which means a pretty dramatic reduction. But this was also, and it had a p-value of 0.04. So it falls into their classification as statistically relevant. Now,
Relevant. This is not incredibly significant, but relevant.
Well, not incredibly significant because out of 59,000 women in this, 49 had events. So it's also one of the least likely diseases. It's like, I think, third out of their list. So it was also like low prevalence. So those are always a little trickier because this wasn't a study on this one type of cancer. Had it been, that would have been a very significant number. But because this was a subgroup, the smallest subgroup sort of in this, it makes it maybe a little relevant. So when combining all cancers, they found a significance of an HR of 0.83, which would be like a 17% lower risk when they combined them all. The problem is when you go one by one, all of them have a p-value, just about all of them, of 0.05, which means that
it's just making it to the edge of significance.
It's making it just past the edge of significance.
Mm-hmm.
It's insignificant.
Yeah.
For almost everything that they tested individually. One thing that they said was this. One thing that I noticed was associated was an increased risk of kidney cancer. This is a very interesting one because it had an HR of 1.38, which means a 38% increase in kidney cancers versus control. Interestingly, though, the confidence index was 0.99 to 1.93. It's a pretty big range. But it also does what, Kiki?
What do you mean it does what? It crosses one. Right, it does. Yes.
0.99 to 1.93. Okay. So that should make it an insignificant result. The problem is it has a p-value of 0.04. Now,
which is relevant but not incredibly significant.
Well, here's the thing.
We don't do physics significance in medicine, in biology. Yeah.
No, but the p-value should actually be reflecting that CI. You should not have a p-value in the significant range with a CI that crosses 1. That should not be possible. It should have at least a 1 at minimum to have the p-value that was significant. So trying to figure out what happens is it could be a rounding issue. right? Now we're going to talk about significance in terms of significant digits. If it came out in the data that it was a CI of 0.995, they might have thought, oh, well, we're only using 2 digits. We don't use that trailing one. What you're supposed to do is round it. And if that is what the rounding would tell you, then it would put the p-value at a 0.04.
Right, because
there's no way.
It would be 1. The 0.99 would be 1 to 1.9. Yeah. So it wouldn't be crossing. Yeah.
Right. But even then, like, there's something tricky going on, because it's just there's something that looks like a fudging of the numbers for it to be so close with such a range that is, 1.93 is the high end, with the average at 1.38. There's something fishy about it just happening to get that 0.1 below relevance with CI because it crosses. And yet somehow in their data, they still showed a p-value of 0.04. It doesn't add up. And because it doesn't add up, and this is a two-sided Cox model. This is not a multivariance method where they're conflating different kinds of things. Nowhere in the study text does it try to reconcile the discrepancy or say that even though we have a relevant p-value, we had this crossing the line. So they have these strange terms where it's moderately, they said use the word moderately insignificant. That's not how it works. You can't have, there's no such thing as moderately insignificant. You have your established criteria. And what's also interesting is all of the other ones that had the p-value that showed it to be insignificant, they didn't cross the 1. So there's also like, how is it that all of your significant findings, which they point out in the study at the very end, they conclude that the GLP-1 RAs were associated with reduced risk of overall cancer in ovarian, also claim reductions in endometrial and meningioma cancers. These are brain lining tissue growth. They're not necessarily cancerous. But the primary outcomes of those also stated p-values below at the 0.5. So the p-values still didn't back up their side claims. So it's very confusing how this is possible. They do have a statement that suggests that GLP-1 RAs might be associated with increased risk of cancer. I think that's what their study found. And I think they buried it, is what it looks like to me. Because
it sounds like it may in certain situations, but it also the conclusion that generally it reduces cancer, it's kind of like they're making it out to be more significant than it actually seems to, like, than the results bear.
They're making their positives that are not at the threshold of significance sound more significant than they are. And they're taking their 1 that fell into a significant category and doing something with the data that makes it look like it just barely crossed 1, so they can kind of push it down, because it doesn't, like, there isn't, I don't know, I'm not an expert on this, but I went looking really hard for an example or an explanation of how you can cross the CI. CI can cross 1 and still be a significant result. And everything told me, like, you go check your data, dude. There's something wrong.
Yeah, go check it.
Not how it works. It's supposed to just be a reflection of the confidence in the p-value should kind of roll together, or at least the p-value shouldn't be in direct conflict.
It should be, but I think you're right
Yeah,
about the rounding error, and that it wasn't. That wasn't. I mean, that would make sense. But if they say 0.99, then do you think that that is what they are? That's what they used. Yeah, their own
and they
reporting
called it
is.
moderately insignificant. They tried
Mhm.
to push it down. Yeah, it didn't even bother p hacking, because this is also one of these things, like, you wonder when you have a group of scientists, and this is also when we were talking about, like, if if half the people aren't experts, then they don't count as an expert panel. If you have
Right.
you may have people that are pushing back against p hacking, that are preventing p hacking, but then you have somebody who makes the rounding error on purpose to like, because that's their role. Something's not right. Something really stinks. And it's not the first one of these studies where something stinks, or where, for whatever reason, the language of the study is trying to downplay
Yeah.
renal effects, kidney effects.
Well, that's called because of money. They don't want it to be impacting kidney because that is
They don't, right.
going to.
And that's a problem. So just
Mhm.
be on notice that any one of these, I don't want to just say Wegovy, because that's the only one that keeps coming to mind. There's a
There's more
whole
than
bunch of
that,
them.
but yeah.
Don't believe the claims right out that you hear in the news, because it's getting wonder drugged into taking care of everything, and it
The
doesn't actually do that.
sensationalism is out of control. It, like, the minute you get the minute any kind of drug becomes, the silver bullet that is going to take care of so many things, it's going to solve all the problems. That is when, you should have already been questioning it. But when the media is overselling and hyping, that's it.
Yeah.
It's too
And
much.
here's the other warning, because you're not going to get it from any other source. So I guess we're the experts on medicine now.
No, we're
It's not
not.
good sign. It's not the good sign.
Nope.
But it's being talked about as though it is a weight loss drug without exercise. And the problem with that is about 40% of the weight loss, 30 to 40% of the weight loss people experience is loss of muscle tissue. So if you're not
That's a massive
exercising,
problem itself. Yeah.
it's like getting bedridden, right? When you have muscle atrophy. Like, if you have, it's experiencing something on the level of muscle atrophy, so that if you're not exercising, you're going to have chances of things like falls and slips and miscalculations in your body's going to feel different, look different. You might ache. Like, there's all kinds of downstream effects for losing that much muscle in a very, very quick period of time. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on those stories. I'll probably find another one sometime in the near future.
And why
But have that skepticism in mind whenever you hear about a claim of one of these former former diabetes drugs for weight loss. Yeah. That there's more to this story than you are being presented,
or that is understood even yet, and they're hyping it before we know everything. So that, yeah. But
and
anyway,
last story I've got for today.
Yeah, what you got?
This is the toilet study. It says here, and this is I didn't delve into this study. This is just the press release alone is all I kind of needed to go, huh? Scrolling while on the toilet linked to higher risk of hemorrhoids.
Right. Yes. Because you sit on the toilet and forget how long you've been there.
Survey participants who reported using a smartphone while on the toilet had a higher risk of hemorrhoids than non-phone users. And let's see, it was a pretty significant amount too. 46% higher risk of hemorrhoids than people who don't use phones. Here's the thing.
Yeah, I have so many questions.
And I'm not going to talk too much more about this. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. It says here that this is quoting, I think, somebody involved in the study. Using a smartphone while on the toilet was linked to 46% increased chance of having hemorrhoids. We're still uncovering the many ways smartphones and our modern way of life impact our health. It's possible that how and where we use them, such as while in the bathroom, can have unintended consequences. Ooh, oh, they're making causational claims here. Consequences.
What about newspapers? What about books? What about just your daydreams?
This is not a study over any period of time. This is a survey. And here's the problem, because it's not over time.
Did the people have hemorrhoids first?
So yes, because the survey is, do you like you check that box? So it's yes, they had it before they took the survey anyway. So we don't know when they got it. Or how long it's been. And here, have you ever seen a hemorrhoid pillow? Do you know what it is?
Wait, what?
A hemorrhoid pillow for people?
Yes,
a
I know
pillow
what a
that
hemorrhoid
people
pillow
sit on
is.
when they have hemorrhoids?
Yes.
Do you know what it looks like? What does it look like? It looks like a
little
toilet
donut.
seat.
A toilet seat, a donut.
Pillow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's inflatable.
What if it's just more comfortable? What if it's the most comfortable seat in the house if you have hemorrhoids? Then it's not having anything to do with being on the smartphone. It's just, this is more comfortable than the wooden chair in the kitchen. This is more comfortable than my desk chair or whatever. Like, it seems like they just took two things that correlate.
No, but here's another thing.
Positive claim.
Yeah, it's use on the toilet correlated to risk of hemorrhoids. Well, if you have hemorrhoids or you had them before, potentially you have issues with your excretion, and so that the process of getting rid of your excrement, maybe it takes a long time. So you use a smartphone for entertainment. Once upon a time, maybe it was magazines, newspapers, actual physical books. If you're taking a long time, the likelihood of hemorrhoids is higher.
Okay. But specifically, they ruled out straining. Straining while using the toilet was not associated with increased hemorrhoid risk in actual contrast to previous studies. But
you have the all of the stuff is slow. It just could take a long time. You could also just like sitting there. Like you said, maybe it's more comfortable and you're reading.
Yeah. Yeah. But
there is question.
Straining wasn't why. Was it with that?
Right. Yeah. So it's not the straining, but it not necessarily. I'm wondering though, like, I just go back to like old entertainment. Now it's smartphones. It used to be newspapers or whatever, and maybe it's the only break that some people get, right? And potentially there is an issue that is self-reinforcing, and maybe the hemorrhoid pillows are also an issue, but maybe there's an issue of relaxing on a not supported seat that leads to a prolapsing or a relaxing of all those muscles that does not keep everything in. I don't know how this works, but there's all sorts of
I don't think it
they're not looking at that.
The pooping itself is what they've kind of ruled out.
No. But if you're just sitting there, do people who use smartphones on the toilet also just sit longer in general, always?
Yes, that's what they were saying. Yes. So here's the, let's see. Time spent on the toilet was significantly higher for smartphone users than non-users. 37% of smartphone users spent more than 5 minutes at a time on the toilet, compared to only 7.1% of non-users. Which I got to tell you, I am actually. I thought that I was quick, but if most people are under 5 minutes, then I'm just there in the mainstream. I'm just there with the bulk. I thought that a lot of people, because people are always talking about like it was like they had time to knit a sweater while they were in there or whatever. I never had. I'm just
What?
gone.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
reading news and using social media were the most commonly reported smartphone activities on the toilet, but straining while using the toilet was not associated with increased hemorrhoid risk. Basis on these findings, researchers suggest that smartphone use may inadvertently prolong toilet time. That makes sense. Potentially increasing pressure in the tissues, which is the thing that they also kind of ruled out. Maybe pressure by the just sitting. I don't know. I feel like it's the most comfortable seat.
Just from sitting. I think that's what they're saying, and that's what I was trying to say. Is like because it's not supported in the center. The muscles that support that entire part of your anatomy the pressure. I don't know. Like this is such an interesting, and I just keep coming back to: is it really smartphone use? Is it not like that? Is it not what people use? I mean, people used to talk about people spending hours in the bathroom, like reading magazines just to get a break, or that was they'd lock the door and stay in the bathroom for 2 hours reading the newspaper or magazines. I mean, I don't even want to know what people do in the bathroom by themselves, but
so I don't. I'm like all business.
But why is it all smart? I mean, smartphones are the devil, apparently. Bad.
Well,
don't be smart.
I mean,
smartphones are dumb.
If you're old enough to remember, there used to be magazines in there. It used to be you could have like you said, newspaper or magazine. There was reading material that people would leave toilet side. That's all gone. Nobody's doing that. But the cell phones is the new version of that. Yeah. How do you think those hand woven sweaters? What do you think they're sitting on the rocking chair by the fire the whole time? No, that's not where that knitting gets done. In fact, all of that is sitting right there, toilet side, waiting for the next session to go work on it.
Anyway, our entertainment has us at our wits' end, apparently. And as we get into the tail end of this show, I would like to talk about some other fun news. You want to hear some things?
Yeah. What you got?
Quick stories for the end of the show. Really cool and research out of Trinity College, Dublin. Researchers have taken macrophages. They took blood samples and they published this research in Cell Reports Physical Science this last week. They took blood samples from the Irish Blood Transfusion Board, and they took the immune cells, the macrophages, the white blood cells out of these blood samples, and then shocked them. They electrically stimulated the macrophages. In stimulating these macrophages, these are healthy individuals. Macrophages, you know what macrophages do, Justin?
They eat viruses?
Not viruses, but yeah, they go around and they patrol. Kind of viruses. They find bacteria, they find weird things, and they go and they want to go chomp them up and eat them up. Sometimes, though, their activity can lead to inflammation. So what they do actually, as they destroy cells, as they eat things up, they release factors that lead to more inflammation. But that's not good, because the inflammation can lead to these self-reinforcing cascades that lead to negative impacts of infections or wounds. So the researchers, they tried electrically stimulating macrophages. They used a custom bioreactor and applied electricity to these cells, and they found that the cells shifted to an anti-inflammatory state. They still did what they normally do. They were roving around trying to find or bump into infectious agents, but they stopped releasing inflammatory markers. They promoted the formation of new blood vessels, and they increased stem cell recruitment into wounds. One of the reasons that they tried this is that we have seen that with really bad wounds, and also with some wounds that have impacted nerves, they've seen that electrical stimulation can help with wound healing. And so they were like, well, why not just the macrophages? And in this, they showed that they could potentially reprogram, as in their words, they can reprogram macrophages to encourage faster, more effective healing, to limit unwanted side effects. And this is a new direction of research to be able to see what happens with different kinds of electrical stimulation. Now, as we're talking about it, it kind of makes me wonder about some of the, I guess, results that people that very often, because there hasn't been a lot of science or research put behind it, there's anecdotal stories of magnetic fields which induce electric current. There are anecdotal stories of electrical currents that have led to certain immune responses. And so there is a certain level of going, this is interesting. We are electrochemical organisms. And so this potentially is in certain individuals, and I'm not going to say everyone, because genetic variation and all sorts of disease factors and environmental factors tied into this could make this much more nuanced. But it's just very interesting to think that electrical stimulation, not genetic modification, could lead to a substantial change in your immune system that would be beneficial. I wouldn't think it.
So are you saying the 5G is?
Nope, I'm not. I did not say that. What I am saying, I did not say that at all.
That's what I heard, is that 5G is actually good for your immune system. We should have more of it.
Right. Okay. But I mean, that's like the question, right? If they're talking about it, it made me sick. This happened, that happened. It's like, well, actually, it should made you healthier. If this study is any indication. But they manipulated these cells in a very specific way using a custom bioreactor. This is not like random, electromagnetic signals in the atmosphere. This isn't, your household current. This is, they were specifically manipulating immune cells in a way that could be therapeutically applied in the future. I mean, imagine you take some blood, right? And then they're able to take your macrophages. Maybe you've got too much inflammation going on in your system. They they get little shock your system, shock the macrophages, and then put them back in. And suddenly they're able to go around and reduce inflammation, and it could be an easy self-applied treatment. And it might, who knows? This to me, this sounds very appealing.
So,
and that we need to study electricity, the electromagnetic spectrum, and what's going on. We know what doesn't happen, but we also are seeing things that do. And we can't just say, science, man. Evidence, not speculation. So I'm not saying yes, but this is interesting.
Okay, so this is a bacteria eating another bacteria. I thought
it's a cell eating a bacteria.
Cell eating a bacteria. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Or an apoptotic cell or something. The macrophages go around. They eat all sorts of stuff.
Okay. But I thought the thing that made the toxicity was the endotoxins, right? Like the things that were getting released from the cell that was getting devoured.
No. Okay. So sometimes they're are factors that are immunomodulatory. So the macrophages are frontline defense, right? They're roving, castle protectors, right? They're going around with their shield and their longsword. I don't know. What do you use in a castle? But they're going around looking for invaders, going hack, 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 or whatever's going wrong, fix it, fix it, fix it. And if something's going wrong, they're also going to yell and say, hey, I need help. Send more reinforcements, right? And so there's all sorts of inflammatory modulators, so interleukins and other signals that get released from the macrophages depending on what they're eating. And they're, in addition to, the other stuff that, maybe the macrophages are like, releasing out as they phagocytize everything. But there's a cascade that can occur that if these macrophages shout too loudly, if they bring too many reinforcements, if they ask for the wrong kind of reinforcements, that can lead to a poorly adapted response. And so what's interesting is this electrical stimulation basically goes, get back in line, man. Go back to this different state. Why it works, what's happening, there's so much there.
Very cool.
Anyway, they're endorsing electrical stimulation as a viable therapeutic strategy for the modulation of macrophages across multiple injury and defense microenvironments. I also think this means that there is a lot more that we need to learn about how and why these different cellular subpopulations work the way they do within the complex environments and microenvironments of the human body. It's very complex. I'm not saying that 5G and other stuff. I didn't say that.
That's what I keep hearing. Everybody now on the internet.
Oh my god!
Dr. Kiki is having
the
curative effects of 5G.
I didn't say that, and I didn't mean that. So
in fact, the closer you are to the tower, if you're sick, you should get right up, climb the tower, hug the 5G. Might be radiation and electricity.
5G needs a hug. 5G needs a hug.
If you hug a tower, it can cure you
today
of most diseases known to man.
That is not
what I heard. Nope. What's wrong with my ears today?
I don't know. Have you spent too much time on the toilet with your smartphone? How's your spleen?
Oh, do I? I don't even know if I have one. I don't even know what that is. Like,
I keep going back to there was a superhero movie that was not like superheroes, and the other one guy's like, I'm the spleen, and it anyway. Spleen.
So can I be perfectly honest for just a moment, because I normally am not. I'm constantly confused between my spleen and my pancreas. I don't know which one is which.
They're very different.
As soon as I get like an idea of which one does what, I know what they are. But the names, I can never tell which one is which just off the top of my head. You won't stay there. Somebody can explain it to me. That would be great. Thank you for playing out.
All right. So the spleen is is part of your immune system. It filters blood like the liver. It's right near the liver, but it's on the backside of your stomach. And
are you looking at it? Are you looking at a map? Like,
I am looking at it.
Look it up.
No, but I was
this off the top of your head.
The spleen
to your spleen, everybody.
Organ, and it's responsible for white blood cell production. It's like part of all your glands. It's like one of but it's involved in blood cells. So red blood cell storage. It makes white blood cells, but it's important for your immune system. and your body's defense or repair after damage, right?
And then the pancreas is the little thing that doesn't do anything.
Digestion. No, the pancreas it makes enzymes. It like that puts stuff in the tummy that's like, I'm gonna eat up. You know.
Okay, so I have a enlarged spleen then. I don't
You
have
do.
oh,
Yes. Well, that
like
means
this
that
forever.
your body is that spleen. It's like it is a gland. It is
filtering
enlarged.
stuff.
It's working really hard. Actually, it's like inflamed. It's working really hard, and it's making a lot of white blood cells, which would kind of make sense, right? Yeah. So the spleen is involved in creating white blood cells. It's involved in repair, and I'm gonna sneeze.
That's what it sounded like. She muted it, but
That was number 2. I unmuted myself for that one. And thank you, the marked Mystery Men. And Paul Rubens played the spleen, which is one of my favorite characters ever. Okay, Mystery Men, great movie.
oh wait, did you muted yourself again
The heart.
somehow?
The heart. What does it have to do with the spleen? You don't really think of the heart and the spleen being connected in any way because the spleen is like, I'm hanging out on the back of the tummy, the stomach. I'm going to be over here doing my thing. And so it's like making the white blood cells. It's still, I'm going to put that in the blood. It's all good. We know that the heart, after cardiac arrest, after damage of any kind, what do we know? Can it be repaired?
Yes.
No. Really, no. So we talk about cardiac arrest. We talk about issues with the heart where sections of the heart muscle are damaged and scar tissue forms. We have not been able to, we have not, scar tissue, which is not flexible, which limits the volume and strength of the heart. So it impinges on the heart's ability to pump blood. Even though the heart still works just fine, it's not able to like really lub dub the way that it used to. We've tried stem cells. We're trying all sorts of things injected into the heart. We're trying so hard to repair damaged muscle cells within the heart after cardiac infarction. Nothing. Like so far, everybody's like, no, can't happen. We can't repair. It always turns into scar tissue. There's like nothing we do. But there's a small group of people where when things are caught early enough and it like the cardiac damage, somehow there is an early response from the body, there is no scar tissue. The cardiac infarction, the blood loss to those muscle cells within the heart, it doesn't lead to scar tissue. There's something that happens there, and researchers have been trying to figure out what and why, and apparently it's because of the spleen. The spleen sends white blood cells to the heart when there is damage. So when you have a heart attack, there are immune cells that are sent from the spleen to the heart. They found in this particular study published in Circulation, looking at mice, they had very specific immune cells. They're called marginal metallophilic macrophages. They originate in the spleen. They go from the spleen to the heart, and they can lead to healing after a heart attack. And with this study, they were able to show that these macrophages from the spleen, they get rid of the damaging immune cells. They get rid of inflammation, and they actually, in the last study we were talking about, they activate stem cells and genes to repair cardiac tissue that's been damaged after a heart attack. So they were looking at also not just mice, they looked at levels of marginal metallophilic macrophages in blood samples from people who went to the hospital after a heart attack. And they compared those with people who had coronary artery disease, but not recently had heart attack. And people who had heart attack had higher levels of those metallophilic macrophages. So heart attack triggers an immune response or a damage control response by the body that the spleen responds to. And potentially, this is the question now, can we harness it to repair damage from heart attack? Can we harness this to repair damage from chronic coronary artery disease? How can we better understand what the spleen is doing and how these specialized macrophages are involved to be able to boost and support that repair process? And you could say, thanks, spleen. If you survived a heart attack, maybe your spleen was involved.
It seems like it would have to be pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, they're right
tumor
there.
Scarring happens pretty quickly.
Yeah, soon after. And so it's like, of course, the extent of the infarction, right? So how much of the cardiac muscle tissue has been damaged? How much can be repaired? Of course, there's probably some limit to the amount of damage that these macrophages can actually manage. But is this something it can be? Oh. So can we boost these immune cells? Are there drugs that can be developed to be able to lead to a better response? I don't know. There's no intervention in trials yet, but this is where this research will definitely be leading. And I think it is really interesting. Because to date, you can't fix broken heart tissue. Injured heart tissue, it doesn't get fixed. That's it. And so to know that there is, and the question is, like we've always been like, how do you fix it? Does the body fix it? Of course the body fixes some of it, but like, what is making it happen? This is part of the solution. My last study is funny. Researchers published in Matter. It is a material science research. They have published their work proposing an integration of luminescent microparticles with succulent plants to create superior luminescence. The researchers have basically created a promising approach that they say material engineered luminescent plant strategy, afterglow particles, micrometer scale materials that when integrated specifically into succulent plants, as opposed to all the others that they tested, which were numerous, they have found that they've been able to create the first multicolored luminescent plants excited by sunlight that have, quote, unprecedented brightness, long afterglow, and a low-cost, simple, and reproducible method that paves the way for sustainable plant-based lighting solutions. So
this was a dream I had many, many decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to a friend, we were going to try to create glow-in-the-dark plants is the thing. And then we got talked out of it. Because, well, it's a good thing. This would be the one where I'm going to step into Blair's role and be like, what does this do to insect life with this with plants that light up and mess up the whole darkness, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? She'd have some intelligent take on it. I'm just babbling. But what does this do to the ecosystem? How do plants react, or the insect world reacts to these plants now that they glow?
Probably not. This is not something that we need to think about at this point in time, because these plants, the luminescence does not last very long, and it needs to be injected into the succulents.
Oh,
And
well,
so,
then stop it.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
doesn't
so
count. I can make a glow in the dark anything right now with a little bit of paint. That's not how you do
they
it.
have wonderful, but this is the first plant in which these sustainable materials, luminescent microside, whatever these compounds, these phosphors have been taken up by the tissues of the plants, not broken down, and reproduce and create bioluminescence. Um, so yeah, this isn't a new idea, but what they did is they basically took phosphor particles similar to like glow in the dark toys, luciferin, and like the firefly bioluminescent compound. They absorb light from the sun. They're able to store that and then re-emit it over a long time period. In this particular time thing, they found 7 microns, about the width of a red blood cell, according to this article from the Science Daily. They're able to move around the plant. They don't get stuck in particular areas. They get nicely distributed to be able to have an all-over glow as opposed to just at the site of injection. They injected them into the plants, and they're able to glow for a couple of hours after only a couple of minutes of sunlight or LED light exposure. And this is kind of cool, but eventually they do break down and you have to re-inject the compound into the plants.
I feel
So
like
they've
this got
found the right size particle that works in succulents, and it's great. And we should all be doing this. No, I'm kidding.
hug your 5G tower and then inject all your friends with bioluminescence. It feels like somebody
I'm ready. I'm ready.
some cell illuminating dye was about to go bad in the lab, and they're like, "What do we do? We gotta throw it out." Hey, I got an idea. Let's take it and inject it into all these succulents on one of our coworkers' desks and see what happens. Muhaha.
All I'm going to say is if Josiah Zahner and the Odin are putting stuff together, get me a kit. I'm going to inject my succulents. This will be great. And seriously, you're not going to have these succulents outside, or maybe you will, but this is not the kind of glow that's going to do more damage to the insect population than our artificial lights that are replacing the night sky.
If it's Josiah Zahner, then maybe I can get my hand.
He should take this technology and make a kit. Yeah.
Just make it inside of my hands glow. And then I was like, oh, where did I put something that's dark? And I'd just go like this. And then I'd be able to find it.
Yeah. And I did misspeak. Josiah is now Josie, and they hopefully will I hope this is on their radar. I think it would be pretty amazing. Yeah, so the researchers said this light fades over the time. They don't know about the long-term safety of the materials for the plants. I don't know about other things. So your question about insects and other ecological interactions is not being considered yet. But I think this sounds super fun, and it sounds like they've figured out a size and parameters that might make this the kind of thing that is perfect for DIY luminance.
Fun toy.
Yeah, sounds great. It's a nice nightlight. Not genetically engineered. Simple injection. Sounds kind of fun. And they're so pretty. It can be great.
I'm going to jump back to something real quick before we
go.
I know we're near the end.
Yes, we are.
It's just that the study on the heart repair having to do with the spleen. Because it sounded familiar, so I went and looked it up. And in a lot of animal regeneration, salamanders, zebrafish, it's relying on white blood cells to choreograph the entire repair process.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Because white
what we
blood
seem to
cells
be
are
missing for
Yeah.
heart regeneration, whole body regeneration, may be the recruiting mechanism to get those white blood cells there. Maybe
Is
it's
the
maybe the
spleen.
spleen's in the wrong spot. Maybe our spleen. I don't know what it is, but it sounds like that.
Maybe we just need to supercharge it.
It sounds like it's doing the thing that is happening in all of these regenerative species. They do it a lot with mouse fingertip, rabbit ear holes that close up again. There's certain body parts and things that have seemingly maintained this ability, but it might be just that it's the recruitment mechanisms that are calling the spleen to come help that are just missing. Maybe it's the spleen is the key to all regeneration, and we just haven't been paying enough attention.
I think it's a combination, though, because it's also the local instructions, right? What does the local tissue say should happen next? So you have damage, you have that defense, you have the injury repair, you've got your, your body's EMT services going to try and do that, first on the scene repair. But when they're there, what, who shows up to tell them what to do, right? Who is ends up being the boss, and what eventually occurs. So there are genetic instructions in our body that actually slow down cellular repair and stop cell division so that you don't end up growing another finger or 3, right? So we as opposed to salamanders that continue to have those instructions expressed, we do not.
But there is a difference in who's doing the recruiting in regenerative tissues and not. And I'm like, I know. Oh, I was just reading about this not too long ago, but I can't find it in a quick enough time. But
I think it the who's recruiting.
Maybe we have everything we need to do.
Yeah. What other genetic instructions are there? What's going on? And it's that conversation that we need to modify. Oh, yeah. I think it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
But thank your spleen, everybody. Your spleen does more than you know. You ready to say goodnight, Justin?
Working hard too. Yes. Good night, Justin. Wait, it's too soon. Right. You have to thank everybody first.
I do. That's what I want to do. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of This Week in Science. It was a lot of fun being here with you. Thank you, everyone in the chat room, for paying attention and being active in the conversation. Thank you to those of you who will be watching later. Fada, thank you so much for your help with social media and show notes. Gord, Arenlore, others who make sure that our chat rooms are nice places to be. Thank you for doing that, because it helps us have the focus on the conversation as opposed to what's happening in the chat room. What are you laughing at? Anyway,
I don't know what's wrong with my ears tonight. It must be the connection, because I heard you say that, thank you for making the chat room a nice place to pee. It's just what I heard.
No, to be. No, that's not what I said. Oh my gosh.
It's right. It's what I have a bad connection or something, because I'm mishearing.
Yes, you do. All right. Identity 4, thank you for recording the show. Rachel, thank you for editing the show. And of course, I want to say thank you to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Aaron Anathema, Adam Mishkan, Alan Viola, Ali Coffin, Andrew Swanson, Arthur Kepler, Artyom, Bob Calder, Bob Coles, Brendan Minish, Brian Carrington, Chris Wozniak, Christopher Dreyer, Christopher Rappin, Craig Landon, Craig Potts, Dana Lewis, Daryl Myshak, Dave Wilkinson, David Youngblood, Don Mundis, Jonathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, E.O., Eden Mundell, Eric Knapp, Flying Out, Fred S104, G. Burton Lattimore, George Corris, Greg Briggs, Howard Tan, Jack, Jason Olds, John Atwood, Greg McKee, John Ratnaswamy, Johnny Gridley, Ken Hayes, Kent Northcote, Kevin Parachan, Kevin Reardon, Kurt Larson, Lon Makes, Lauren Gifford, Mary Gertz, Marjorie, Mark Hessenflow, Noodles, Patrick Pecoraro, Paul D. Disney, Paul Ronovich, Philip Shane, Pierre Velazar, P.I.G., Richard Badge, Robert Norland, Robert W. Farley, Rodney Lewis, Rudy Garcia, Hemi Day, Sean Clarence Lamb, Shoe Brew, Stephen Alberon, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Sue Doster, Teresa Smith, Tony Steele, and Vegard Schafstad. Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. You help keep the show going. And if anyone wants to contribute to us and the show and the community on Patreon, please head over to TWIS.org and click on that Patreon link on next week's show.
We will be back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, broadcasting from all of the channels on the tubes, the books,
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Everything. Yeah, if you want to listen to us as a podcast, just search for This Week in Science wherever podcasts are found, or you like to find podcasts. If you enjoyed the show, get your friends to subscribe as well.
For more information on anything you heard here today, show notes and links to the stories will be available on our website, www.twis.org. And you can also sign up for Blair's newsletter.
I love how it's Blair's now. And we love your feedback. If there's a topic that you would like us to address or cover, or a suggestion for an interview, let us know on one of our social media accounts, or send us an email. Just put TWIS in the subject line so your email doesn't get spam filtered into a luminescent succulent that someone puts in their garden and then forgets to recharge.
We look forward to discussing science with you again next week. And remember, if you learned anything from the show,
it's all in your head.
This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got
it looks like Kiki's now. Oh, she's back. We gotta stop talking about her.
Easy after show.
There's not an after show. There's no after show. I gotta.
No, it's sleepy time because I have a child who has to get up and go to school in the morning, which means I have to get up to get him to go to school in the morning. And you froze right now, but yeah.
Oh, good.
But anyway, you
that's
gotta
the
go
state
because
that I
you
want
work
to
in the
be in.
morning. You have things to
In
write.
a couple hours. No, the writing's all done for the day. I just need to do the sleeping and the working in the morning, in the early morning.
Connection unstable. Early morning.
Internet's falling asleep. Say goodnight, Kiki.
It is. Yeah, it's wonderful hanging out with you. Good night. Wait, no, you say it first. Say goodnight, Justin.
Good night, Justin. Say goodnight, Kiki.
Good night, Kiki. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another fun-filled episode of This Week in Science. Thank you for all of your curiosity and commentary as we delved into the stories that we brought this week. And I hope that they give you luminous dreams for the week to come. Don't forget your spleen. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay curious. Yeah, stay lucky, Justin.
Always.
Night, everyone. Stay lucky. Bye. Good night.